at the very least we're breaking even on it. I don't care. Lower the price back down.
I am almost homesick for the Florida that I knew growing up in the 90s.
They don't actually truly care about this country.
We don't have to watch that, no. I'll turn off the radio. So won't you wake up?
Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Florida Frontier. Today, I have joined with me AJ, also known as my my article writer, my scribe, if you will. And she doesn't have her video on. It's okay. It's okay. You can still hear her audio. All right. And I doubt much of you even actually watched the video itself. I imagine a lot of you have listened to it. Anyways. If you support the show, you support what we do here, you can subscribe to us on Substack for $8 a month. $8 a month, you can unlock exclusive articles, videos, documentaries, whatever I have in the making, including AJ, and you get in a group chat with me. For $100 annually, you become a founding member on the show, and I will allow you to be on here with me. So anyways, going on into tonight's show, we're going to be talking about socialism versus capitalism, the economics pros and cons. And I'm going to be honest with you, I'm very, very biased on this whole thing. There is no pros whenever it comes to socialism. It's all cons, but we're going to get into that though. How do you guys like my tie? You know, I put this on and my first thought was, and I got to chill out what I say here. I love the tie, right? Christ is King. I love the tie. It's a great tie. I've had it for a long time. But it may do with it as you will. You know, it's like it reminds you of a particular demographic of people going to church. And anyways, I'm gonna back off of that one a little bit. Actually, I forgot to put on my tie clip. It says King of Kings on it. I'll just keep it on my desk next to me. Anyways, we're gonna be getting into that tonight. I'm going to be honest with you. There is not a whole lot happening whenever it comes to world news. Like I said over and over again, I say this every day. It's like Groundhog Day, literally the same day over and over again. We are living every day. Strait of Hormuz, problems over there. Iranian war, problems with that. War is never going to end. It's going to be a forever war. It's not going to end. Gas prices are just going to continue rising. There is no sign of it going down. And matter of fact, actually, I think it went down like 30 cents today or whatever. And it went down, and I'm pretty sure it's about to go back up tomorrow because we had a deal with Iran that, hey, we're going to try and open up the Strait of Hormuz. And today, Iran started opening fire on U.S. warships over there. So now all that is a big mess again. And it's just going to happen over and over and over again. And I've stated this previously, my honest opinion about this whole thing is, you know, you have a whole bunch of Trump supporters, a bunch of your older generation who is saying, oh, well, we're going to take out the Iranian regime. When we do that, the people's going to rise up, take power, and, you know, have independence from their government, create their own government. It's no longer going to be Iran. They're going to rename it to something else. But we haven't seen that. We haven't seen it. There's no signs of that ever happening. Ultimately, these people have this style of ideology engraved down to the very bones because that's just who they are as people. You know, and this reminds me of the whole war with Vietnam, actually. The whole entire purpose of the war of Vietnam was to end the spread of communism. It was to end the spread of communism from communism spreading going up north, right? Because Vietnam was a communist country. We went in there, and a bunch of hippies kind of got together, and they're like, "Hey, we don't want war." And so now the result of that whole deal is now we have communist China, we have communist North Korea, and all that good stuff. Anyways, but I'm not going to get into world politics because, like I stated, it's all just Groundhog Day. AJ, would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure. Let's do it. Hi, people on the internet. I'm AJ. My whole thing is that I like to write, and that's all I do. That's it. That's me.
She likes to write. Right. She's my scribe, essentially. Anything I commandeth of her to write about a particular article, and she does it because she is my scribe. Yep. I'm just joking. She writes what she will. But anyways, we're going to kind of get into the whole benefits, the pros and cons of socialism versus capitalism. And for one, we need to start off by defining what those two are. Well, people may ask, and it's okay. A lot of, especially a lot of your Democratic Party people out there say, well, I call myself a socialist. And matter of fact, you look at the mayor in New York, the new mayor, Ma'am Danny. He took power, and he's actually a communist. He's a communist. He openly admits he's a communist. And there is a little bit of a difference between the communism versus socialism. But ultimately, you cannot have a communist country without a socialist platform. So those two really go hand to hand in a lot of ways. It is impossible to have a communist country with capitalist principles. It just doesn't work that way. Basically, communism is socialism, except you have a dictator. That is literally the difference. So anyways, going into what defines socialism itself, socialism is a form of government where everything as far as services such as education, food, travel, public transport, I should word it, infrastructure, even though infrastructure, we already have this system in our country today, but it also involves infrastructure, anything that is a public service, basically anything at all in the country is just paid through taxes. It's paid through taxes. The majority of your income gets taxed out at the end of the year. You pay a crap load of tax. Anyways, ultimately, the best way to put it, though, is with education is a prime example. With education, you can go to Denmark, especially your European countries, they have a lot of this. Your education is quote-unquote free education. But as we know, nothing comes free. Everything has a price, and it's paid for by one way or another. And education through socialism is paid for by the tax-paying dollars. And how does that exactly work, and how does it impact the economy? Well, it works because instead of paying directly for an education, the government pays it for you, but ultimately everybody has to end up paying the price in the end. But anyways, going into capitalism itself, capitalism is essentially a form of government where anybody can make their own business. They can sell what they please. Honestly, yeah. Have you ever heard the term free market, AJ?
I have heard the term free market.
Are you familiar with what it is at all, by chance? It's okay if you're not. A lot of people are not.
Like, doesn't that mean like the concept of how smaller businesses can like fight the like conglomerate and like price change and like competitive stuff?
Yes. Essentially, yes. Socialism countries don't really have that. And actually, I forgot to add this for socialism itself. Socialism is a very big proponent whenever it comes to government grocery stores, I guess you could say, right? Mega corporations, but except it's not owned by billionaires, it's owned by the government itself. So the government gets to kind of regulate the taxes or regulate the prices on certain goods, such as bread and eggs, for example. And the problem with it is since every single thing is paid for by the taxpayer dollars, what's going to happen with that is it's going to inflate the price. It's going to devalue the dollar first, and it's going to inflate the prices of goods. because they cannot afford to keep providing goods to its citizens without a free market. And the proof for that is look at the Soviet Union. Look at any other country who was a socialist or a communist country before the US. Even now, we have a lot of countries, especially in Africa. I forgot what the country. There's a country in Africa. I totally forgot what the name of it is called, but they're a socialist country, and their dollar is very, very, very unvaluable. I mean, and this is probably not the best example, but if you look at the Iranian dollar, I think like $1 is worth like 50,000 Iranian dollars or whatever, and part of that has to do with just war itself. But the other part has to do with just the fact that it's not a strong currency because of Iran's economic policies in the past. Excuse me, everybody. I'm like kind of stuffed up right now. I don't know why. Like my nose is kind of stuffy, so you'll have to bear with me this episode. But ultimately, though, if the dollar is devalued and everything is paid through taxes, well, the government has to find some sort of way to be able to pay for these programs, such as education, rather than putting it on the individual. So what's the correct way of paying, or for the government to be able to afford things like that, such as public transport is included? Well, it would be to inflate the prices of the goods on the citizens, so that way the government can make enough money to be able to afford it. But the problem with that is food becomes unaffordable. It becomes unaffordable for families. The dollar gets devalued, because what is going to happen with that is over time, with goods prices rising up higher and higher over the years to be able to pay for things like this, especially whenever the population of the country itself is rising over the years. Because let's say you have 1 million people. I don't know. Actually, that's not a realistic number. Let's say you have 50 million people in your country. Every single year, you have 500,000 new people. Let's just say that. You have 500,000 new people being born every single year in your country. Eventually, your population is going to keep rising and rising and rising, and it's going to increase the supply and demand of the country. That is economics 101 for you, is supply and demand. When you have a limited supply of something, such as goods and food, especially with a limited amount of land, whenever it comes to farmland, being able to grow, pick, and prepare the food that is grown off of local farms in the country, you have a limited supply on that because, like I said, you have limited land. And when you have a demand that is rising through an ever-rising population in the country, then eventually the government needs to find some sort of way to be able to make that money back. So what do? They rise the prices of the goods, the food, laundry, whatever it may be, so that way they can afford a ideology like that in the government. They take it out on the people, and that's essentially what socialism is in a nutshell. It is always doomed to fail. And right now we are seeing it in New York. We're seeing it in California. Right now in New York, Ma'am Danny and he campaigned on making all public services completely free to the people because they pay it through taxes. But ultimately what we are seeing, though, is in order for New York to even afford something like that, they have to raise the minimum wage over and over again every single year, so that way people can continue to afford to pay the taxes for the government to be able to pay for that. And so the more countries have to raise their minimum wage for countries to be able to afford a socialist system, it devalues the dollar more and more because the more of it there is, the less valuable it becomes. And so that's basically what socialism is in a nutshell. Capitalism itself, America is a capitalist country. You have a free market country. You are able to create a business, create a company, and be able to have stocks for it, have private investors. That in itself is really, really good for business. Let's say you open up a small grocery store. I don't know. Let's say it's a meat market, a family-owned meat market. You buy local cattle. They get slaughtered. You cut all the meat yourself. You hire employees to do it for you. You keep the majority of that profit. Now, some of it goes towards taxes, which, I'm kind of opposed to that. but some of it goes towards taxes. But ultimately, in the end, though, you keep the majority of the profit. That is a capitalist country versus a socialist country in general. So now this stream itself, I'm probably not going to go for too long on the stream, only because, like I said, I'm not feeling that great today. I don't know. I don't know, man. I guess we're going into the summer, and I'm allergic to grass. For all of you who do not know, I'm actually allergic to grass, which is like the worst thing in the world to be allergic to, especially living over here in the U.S. And it's a horrible thing, especially during springtime and summer. It's horrible. I can't stand it. But that's just how it is. Anyways, I kind of covered those two in a nutshell. Man, what do we even talk about? I said I didn't really want to get into world politics that much. And I also said yesterday I was going to get like a marker board or something like that to teach you the whole economics of them too. But I'm not going to lie to you guys. I was a little bit lazy today. I told myself while I was in town, I was like, I need to go get a marker board. And I just didn't do it. I didn't do it. That's on me. It's totally on me, but it's okay. Anyways, did you have anything particular that you wanted to talk about, AJ?
Two things. One, it's so crazy that you said you didn't get a marker board. I literally just put one up in my room. Like, it's on my wall. Like, I just did that today. I got the stud finder and everything. I just did it. Two, I don't know. I kind of maybe thought about talking about what I'm writing about when it comes to like free speech and stuff, because I think it can link to like economic standard, because when you think about really the difference in classes and you look at like the difference in people in general, usually you have a lot of different factors that go into how free your speech really is as a person, like individually, because obviously the First Amendment is a right for everyone who lives here in America, citizen-wise. And for me, though, I've realized that, and I speak from personal experience as someone who works in ministry and works on college campuses and stuff, like, I can say something and people take what I say as discriminatory, but someone of a different demographic than I can say something or say the exact same thing, and it's not seen as wrong. Like, I can point out a double standard,
Yeah.
and it's seen as like, you're racist, you're anti-Semitic, you're this, you're that. And I'm like, no, I just said the truth. And then someone else says it, and it's like, you know what? That person's absolutely correct. And usually, it's because they're a liberal. And it's like, I cannot handle that. It's stupid. I think that, like, one of the big things that like America faces right now is that if everyone would just be okay with everyone saying anything in their own private home or online, because of the fact that, like, it is your life, it's your choice, anyway, that's my tangent. My tangent is that free speech should be free no matter who you are, and like the limitations on things, especially on college campuses. Like, okay, I just said my tangent was over, but I'm gonna go for like one more minute.
You're good.
I go to Florida Gateway College. And I say that, and this is relevant because of the fact that I go to a community college. So I live on a very where I live, it's very small. It's not a huge amount of people. I still face the fact that I have to be careful about what I say, because I can't be discriminatory towards other religion, or I can't be discriminatory towards other belief systems. Yet downstairs from where we meet, there's another club who literally, like, their whole thing is promoting like racial stereotypes. And it's like, so upstairs we're talking about Jesus, the savior of the world, the man that died and rose 3 days later for this, like, the salvation of me and you. But downstairs they're talking about, I don't know, Cardi B in like the newest, I don't know, TikTok trend, and they can say whatever they want, but we talk about Jesus, and it's like, no, that's weird.
Yeah, it's woe to you.
But yeah. And so anyway, that's my tangent. What's your thoughts on free speech, given that you're the political commentator? I'm not.
So I think, like, for one, we live in Florida, and it's really weird that, I love Ron DeSantis. I think Governor DeSantis is basically, I think he's done an excellent job throughout his governing. And, you know, as much as I hate to say it, DeSantis, he basically campaigned, and not just campaign, but DeSantis is a really big advocate for quote unquote free speech. And anyways, where I'm going with this ultimately is we have a lot of candidates who claim they are free speech, but yet they go to a foreign country and sign a law into place back at their home state of what people can and cannot say whenever it comes to anti-Semitism. And so DeSantis is one of those people. And so it's like, like I said, I love DeSantis. He governed excellently. Governor DeSantis is by far the greatest governor in the U.S. and in the world, in my opinion. I think DeSantis is probably the greatest leader in the world currently. But ultimately, though, I think, for us to maintain a free speech country, we have to, and this all comes down to the younger generation. We have to all rise up, metaphorically, we have to all rise up against the opposition, not just being the left, but also the right. Because, ultimately, and this goes back to what you were saying as far as the left earlier, but is it really a left versus right issue anymore whenever we have people on the right that is actually currently limiting our freedom of speech of what we can and cannot say about other foreign countries? And so right now in the state of Florida, there's a Florida statute. It's Florida Statute 1.015. Florida Statute 1.015 basically defines what you can and cannot say about the state of Israel or Jewish individuals. But any other country, though, any other ethnicity, any other race, you have the right to say whatever you like. And generally, look, as much as racism itself is bad, as much as that is a bad thing, I don't think anybody should be racist. Although you have the right to be racist. And it's such, and me saying that is probably going to be a super controversial thing. I might get some flack for that, but I really don't care. But you ultimately have the right to say what you want and to believe how you like. And I mean, look, we literally have a Church of Scientology in Florida where you give them all of your net worth, and in return, they convince you that Xenu, the space monster, the space overlord devil, is bad and he's possessing your body with aliens currently. And we're giving these guys tax exemptions. But it's crazy how we're going to give some corrupt cult the rights like that and exempt them of their taxes, but God forbid you have a certain way of thinking that is quote unquote anti-Semitic. So it's in the state of Florida, technically it's illegal if I was to say Israel did 9/11, and there's a lot of evidence for it, and that's a topic for another day, but there's a lot of evidence for it. But I can actually be charged in the state of Florida for saying something like that. So it's crazy how even with people on the right, it's not just the left, but even people on the right are trying to restrict our freedom of speech. And yes, whether people may say, but it's misinformation though, why do we really care when it's misinformation? And my question to you is, are you telling me that I cannot practice my First Amendment right as I like? So, it's crazy. People can go on the side of the road. They can hold up a sign basically advocating for the massive genocide of unborn babies in their mother's womb. But God forbid you say that, God forbid you hold another nation accountable for their actions. That's not even our own. So ultimately, it's really interesting that the left started out as the cancel culture political side. The left was all about canceling people. It was all about restricting people of what they could or could not say. If you said something they didn't agree with, not only would they basically get you banned on all these platforms, but they would also come after you and your family. I mean, the result, that's the result of Charlie Kirk. Charlie Kirk, he spoke his mind. He went out, he talked to colleges, he went out and evangelized. But the moment he started to criticize another foreign country is the moment he just so happens to get assassinated. So I don't buy the whole that some tranny furry little snowflake was able to disassemble that rifle and reassemble it and climb up on the roof and make a shot from that far. I'm sorry, I don't buy it. And I get it. It's a very controversial thing. I get it. It's a whole conspiracy, right? So there's not really, in which there is evidence for that whole thing. Actually, there is evidence. There's hardcore evidence stating that it was actually involving another country as well. But it's crazy. It's crazy to me that Charlie Kirk actually in the group chat. He was a part of a group chat before he died, and within that group chat, he started questioning what Israel was doing as far as, hey, why is Israel saying this? Why are they performing these actions? Why are we sending them money? Why are they funding our politicians? Charlie Kirk was questioning that before he died because he had I guess you would call it an epiphany. For the longest time, everybody thought that Charlie Kirk was just going to be always pro-Israel. And up until the moment that he died, he started questioning it. And as soon as he started questioning it, guess what? A bullet came in and took his life. And you also see same thing with JFK. Have you ever heard the story of why JFK got assassinated?
No, not the full thing. I really I need to be more educated.
No. So basically, what ended up happening is during the time of the Bay of Pigs, right? So we sent troops in Cuba. JFK did not approve of us sending troops in Cuba. JFK was against a war with Cuba. He was against it. Although JFK told the Soviets saying, hey, why are you sending missiles to Cuba? In which the Soviets took the missiles back. But ultimately, though, JFK did not want to put ground troops in Cuba and go into a full-blown war with them. So the CIA ended up, without the president's permission, the CIA put ground troops in Cuba. JFK found out about it, and he fired the head board members of the CIA over it. Not only did he fire them, but during that same time also, he also was trying to restrict Israel the right of having nuclear weapons. And just so happens, whenever he did all these things, he ended up getting assassinated. And the same thing with RFK. RFK Jr.'s dad, for those of you who don't know, RFK, JFK's brother, was also running for president as well. And he would have won it. But right before the presidential election, he got assassinated. And this is because RFK was well aware of all the corruption happening in the government, and RFK was well aware that it was not Lee Harvey Oswald that shot his brother. RFK knew that it was the own government that killed his brother. And since RFK knew all these things and RFK wanted to expose it, he ended up getting assassinated too. So this goes on to say it's not just the left, but it's also a right issue. It's the left and right that's trying to revoke us of our First Amendment rights. This is now the parties versus America first. That's what it comes down to.
Yeah, I mean, and it makes me think. It obviously, if you read the articles I write, I'm very centrist. I don't like to take a side. I think both sides of the aisle are dumb. They're, in the words of James Fishback, there are two wings attached to the same bird, and so it's so. It just baffles me how people can that have. Okay, side note. I think that people with without inner monologues just don't exist. If you don't think to yourself and are able to hear yourself think, I'm not sure you're a real person. Anyway, but for me, I think that both sides have this overwhelming issue that they're just not capable of communicating. And I think that they just get mad when anyone disagrees with them and say, "Oh wait, no, that's this, that's that." And it makes me think of that one clip of Alex Jones where he's saying what is it? And what's the clip? Oh, it's where he's saying the collapsing New World Order government, saying it's run by Jews, and they're the ones doing it. They're the ones that are putting all this stuff out there that they're trying to limit. And it starts small. What they'll do is it's this one thing, this one saying, oh, well, denying that this event happened or saying that this had ulterior motive, that's just not true. So we're gonna tell you to not say that. And then it gets from there, it goes to you can't say anything about this at all because it makes us look bad. Like that's really all it is that people, and this goes down to just the everyday person. If you say something that someone either they agree with and don't want other people to know they agree with it, or they don't agree with and don't like that you said it, they're like, "No, I don't want you to talk about that, so you're not allowed to say that." Like I had a teacher one time, like we had something on the board where we weren't allowed to say like a list of words because the fact the teachers didn't like them. And so and it wasn't like this was before all the brain rot of Gen Alpha. Okay. Like this was like goodness. Wow, saying this I feel old. But anyway, like it's just the thing that and this oh my gosh, can I speak English? But this is something I'm very passionate about, like the censorship of books and things like that. I'm very passionate about the things that we educate our kids with because I mean I at one point wanted to have a career in education, and I think that when you teach children that their voice doesn't matter because of their skin color or because of the way that their parents believe or because of things out of their control, you get a generation that is afraid to say anything. And you raise up a generation of people pleasers and people who care too much about what other people think of them. And that's what's happened to Gen Z a lot. And I think that's why, like, when you genuinely sit down and have a conversation with someone that disagrees with you, if they're open, usually one side or the other says, "Oh, maybe you're right. Maybe like we can research this." And like in my experience when talking to people who have differing views than me, they seem to be more open because you're talking to them. You're not telling them, "You can't think that because of this. You can't think that because of this." You're saying, "No, I can understand why you have that point of view, but here's mine." And like it's like how do I say this without being like super extreme? Honestly, you've said worse. I don't care. I I'm very like I'm okay. I'm a debater. I love to debate people. And so people one time I was debating my friend and he had said something. I was playing devil's advocate. And I realized that there are people who genuinely think that saying, "Oh, us sending money to Israel is unwise." There's people that generally think that's anti-Semitism, or someone saying, "I think there was more to the Black Lives Matter movement than just someone dying." Like, like when you think about people who like genuinely think like that, it makes you wonder where in their past were they not allowed to have an opinion? And where in their past were they not allowed to think differently than anyone else? And there's too many blind followers in this like society as a whole. And it makes me think, well, what happens when people realize they have a voice? What happens when people realize that what we're doing right now is something we're free to do? It's frowned upon, but we're capable of doing it because it's not just empty, idle words. This is stuff that's relevant, is happening. And anyway, that's my tangent.
Yeah, no,
Opinion, thought.
and you said something interesting there. You said with these people who believe a certain way, as far as as far as advocating for the left, right? The people who becomes the left. You said, I wonder how many of those people were just shunned out of having an opinion in the past, and that's why they ended up being brought up like that. And I can tell you this is it's actually pretty often. It happens a lot. And my proof for that is it was once happening with me. I was not always a conservative. I was not always it wasn't always a Republican. Wasn't always America First. I wasn't always what people would call far right. I used to be a centrist in school. Well, I called myself a centrist, but in all reality, I had a lot of liberal ideas. Socially, I was conservative. Economically, I was liberal, I guess you would say. And not in a socialist way. I was never advocating for socialism or communism or anything crazy like that. But more so, like, for example, there was this one day I was debating a friend. And I used to be, all in the space flight. I used to be all in the aerospace engineering. And I remember saying to myself, or I remember telling somebody, I was like, wouldn't it be really cool one day for, night is you're out during nighttime, you look up in the sky and you see the moon, and on the moon you'll be able to see city lights. And they answered back and they're like, no, I don't think that'd be cool at all. Matter of fact, I think that's a bad thing because I think we need to conserve what our Lord has given us. And although, ultimately I still disagree with what he was saying about that, only because, and look, I believe in conserving the land. I believe in stopping the overdevelopment. But overall, though, and this goes into a whole nother topic, but overall, though, I believe that there's nothing wrong with putting buildings on other celestial bodies, such as the moon, Mars, or whatever it may be. And I believe that one day will happen. There is going to be a day where it is going to be normal for people going to the moon. It is going to be an everyday thing where people is going to Mars. And that's in the near future. It's going to happen a lot sooner than you think. And so ultimately, though, what I'm saying, though, is, used to, I would be very, I was for the overdevelopment of Florida at one point, I guess is what I'm trying to get at. I see nothing wrong with it. Now I do. Now I'm completely against it. I believe that we need to conserve our land. We need to make sure that Florida stays small and rural, and we need to preserve Florida for just the Floridians. That's what I believe. And so anyways, going on to say, though, during the time when I was in school, I was challenged by my teachers, and I challenged my teachers as well. They would, like I had a teacher, I'm not going to say his name, but he was left leaning. He actually voted for Joe Biden. Very anti-Trump, very anti-Republican, very anti-right. He was part of the left. And we would discuss politics every day in class with him. And I found myself in agreement with him a lot of the times, but I began to realize, though, I would only find myself in agreement with him because anytime I did not find myself in agreement, he would go on to try to prove me wrong on this. And he would try to pound it in my head of how I was wrong on it. And so ultimately, we were not really allowed to have our own opinion. We had to just we were just allowed to agree along with them. Like, you can discuss whatever you'd like, but you had to just agree. And so, anyways, as far as that whole situation, though, no, yeah, it's I think that a lot of the left is a result of just people's ideas being shunned away from them throughout their younger lives. And yeah, I mean, if you really think about it, I mean, think about all the children that grows up. And let's say it's a little boy growing up and he's living in a single parent household, and he only has his mother, and his mother wants that boy to be a girl. She wanted a girl. So what does she do? She puts a dress on him, she puts makeup on him, and she tells him as he's growing up that he's actually a girl. And so this is a prime example of what you just kind of said, right? And that's not just in the schools. It's not just in your teenage years of other people. It all starts from a very early age. And that's a prime example of it. Because ultimately that boy's going to grow up and he's going to know deep inside that he is a boy. And that he is not, and he's going to know that all of this is just a lie, right? I mean, why else would people go get quote unquote, gender affirming surgeries? Is to cope with themselves because they know that they're not actually a man. They know that they're not actually a woman. And I see too many times where people will say, "Oh yeah, my pronouns is he, him, or they, or she, her," right? And it will be a girl saying, "Yeah, my pronouns are he, him. I'm a boy. I'm a man." But yet you'll say, "Okay, well, when are you getting your gender affirming surgery?" "Oh yeah, I'm getting that next year." The whole reason why these people are even going after the surgeries in the first place is so that way they can get in their head and they can convince themselves, and they lie within themselves. Over time, they begin to convince themselves that they are truly, the opposite gender. But during that time, though, whenever they don't have those surgeries, they convince them, they just tell themselves over and over again every day that they're not who they really are. And the whole reason, if they truly believe, if a quote unquote woman, transgender woman, whatever, if a woman has quote unquote pronouns in her bio and she actually uses her pronouns on a daily basis, it kind of goes on to prove that she doesn't actually believe that if she's seeking surgery later on in the future. And anyways, going on, we're reaching about 40 minutes here. I think I'm probably going to extend this for 20 more minutes. I'm not sure if there's anything else you really want to get into. I think I kind of touched on all of what I was going to touch on for this show. Was there any other things that you want to get into?
I wanted to respond to what you said about the whole transgenderism thing. My view on it is this. Two things. One, gender dysmorphia is actually in the DSM-5. It's literally a mental disorder. They're literally just clinically, there's something wrong with them. And it's not, like, and that's not me being hateful. I will, like, my faith tells me to love everyone, and I can love them and accept the person that Christ sees them as and not their sin. And so I will be as kind as possible. I'm not nice, but I'm kind. And I don't like, anyway. But until you can come to terms with the fact that it's literally just in your head, it's not, okay, I used to be, like, a part of the LGBTQ TV commercial, I don't know, the community. And I, like, one of my biggest things was that I just struggled a lot with my identity in general. I just never knew who I was because, like, a lot of my past was just being tossed around between people and parents and stuff. So I really never, like, figured out who I was because everyone told me my opinion was wrong and all the things. And so I'm very, like, strong about the fact that it's literally, it just boils down to the fact that, one, people don't know who they are in Christ. And until they get to that point, they're never going to truly know who they are. And then two, like, until you can come to terms with the fact that God doesn't make mistakes, you're just not gonna be able to, like, accept that you're made fearfully and wonderfully in the eyes of God. And then my other thing on it is that if you're going to be transgender, at least look the part. Please just pass. I can't stand when, okay, because this has happened to me. I'm an avid theme park goer. I love to go to Disney. I love to go to Universal. I have talked to a transgender, like, cast member is what they call them at Disney, and basically employee. And I said, well, sir, I don't really understand. And he literally just said, I'm a ma'am. Dude had a full beard, like, he had long hair and makeup on, but he had a full beard and stuff. And I'm like, okay, I don't know. Like, I can't tell. If you're gonna say that you're a woman when you're a man, at least try to look the part. Don't just be like, okay, I'm gonna pick on some people. Don't be like Lily Tino and things like that, and like all the transgender activists that don't pass and then get offended when they don't. Sorry.
Yeah,
that's
no.
my
No, you're good. And actually, there's a couple I know I said I was going to end this fairly soon, and then I just totally thought of a couple more things I can go on about. One of them being is I called somebody a loser on Twitter earlier, and I'm going and look, if you're watching this, No Soup for Knowles, if you're watching this, welcome to my show. I used to love you. I used to look up to you, and you have utterly just became a disappointment. Anyways, I think that you have strayed away, and I'm going to get into that. Anyways, but tapping onto what you said, though, I got to pull up this reply so I can remember the whole thing was actually about. Anyways, but this is referring to like a whole Ben Shapiro thing. But anyways, I believe that the whole transgender thing, and I believe honestly it's just demon possession. Yes, it's a mental illness, but ultimately I believe that it's just a demon possession. And I believe that there really is a no cure unless they find Christ. That's kind of what I believe.
agree.
That. And, and me and you have differing opinions on religion on this part. But I believe that until they find Christ and they get baptism and they wash away the demons off of their soul, then I don't believe that they're going to find redemption. I don't believe that they're going to find happiness. I don't believe that they're going to be able to break off from the bondage of it. But anyways, Britta, No Soup for Knowles. Let's see. She was replying back to James Fishback. And Ben Shapiro says Byron Donalds is running a successful campaign against Fishback. And basically Fishback laughed us off and was like, "Yeah, okay, bud." And look, it's crazy. If you have not gone to a Fishback event, you need to go. He's pulling like a crowd of 400 people at a gas station. At a gas station. Okay? I don't think Byron Donalds is able to do that. Okay, I'm just saying. And anyways, Britta responded and said they say over and over again that Ben Shapiro is irrelevant, but they cannot stop being triggered by him. What are you talking about here? Triggered? What are you even saying? And she's probably going to go on to say how I was probably triggered by this comment, and that's why I'm talking about it right now. And by the way, AJ, I had this reserve. This is something I was going to talk about earlier on my show that I had planned out, and I totally forgot about it until now. But anyways, going on to say though, let me ask you something, Britta. How is it being triggered when we just say we don't want our country going to any foreign country, including a specific one in the Middle East, being Israel? How is it anti-Semitic to say that we don't want billions of dollars, we don't want our weapons, we don't want our support being lended over to a country that doesn't even like us? Britta, they don't even love you. You know what the book of the Talmud says? The book of the Jews. It says that you are like dogs and that they will never eat with you. And before you say, oh, but I see Ben Shapiro all the time. I don't know if you do, but before you say, oh, but Ben Shapiro wouldn't do that. Well, listen. The devil often appears as an angel of light. And ultimately, Ben Shapiro was kind of the guy who red-pilled me. At least part of it was. Ben Shapiro partly red-pilled me. And Michael Knowles actually is the person who really red-pilled me. But what I have seen going down throughout time is comments like this. Ben Shapiro calling James Fishback anti-Semitic because James Fishback wants to withdraw our taxpayer dollars from a foreign country. Okay. Well, how about all those times when the Biden administration would try to pass a bill and then you would not be in favor of it for the reasoning being that they would try to hide $1 billion and they're going to Africa. And you would say, oh, no, we don't need to pass this because our money's going to a foreign country. It's not even benefiting the American people. But all of a sudden, it's completely acceptable if it's going to our quote-unquote greatest ally in the world. All of a sudden, it's a good thing whenever it's going towards a genocide that is happening within the Gaza Palestinian region. All of a sudden, it is Israel. Let me tell you something. I don't want you talking about Fishback. I don't want you talking about me. I don't want you talking about any other America's First conservative until you have nothing to say. You have no right to say anything until you break away from the Jewish misleading media that is just bring you down to lies. And you know, here's the thing is I followed Britta probably for I don't know. I followed her for years, for absolutely years. And I'm not really sure who she is to Michael Knowles or whatnot, but I know she's always had like a Michael Knowles name in her profile or whatever. But it says her bio says Christian, wife, voice artist, and quote unquote filth. And it's a Candace Owens quote. At least the filth is a Candace Owens quote. And let me tell you something. I don't like Candace Owens. I think Candace Owens, she's wrong on a lot of her things. I think that she's a huge conspiracy theorist. I think that Candace Owens just says a lot of things just for the clips. Now, look, that is not me saying I don't think Candace Owens cares about her country. I think that Candace Owens does care about her country. I think that she loves her country. But ultimately, though, you're getting triggered, and I'm going to use your wording here against you, by the way. You're getting triggered by Candace Owens by calling you filth, by adding it in your bio. And ultimately, though, here's the thing. Why would she call you filth? Well, let's get down to the reason of it. Let's see first we have to dig into what happened to Candace Owens at the Daily Wire. Jeremy Boring fired her. And by the way, Jeremy Boring made sure to make that very clear recently for whatever reason, because somebody saying, oh, Candace Owens left the Daily Wire. He was like, oh, she didn't leave the Daily Wire. I fired her. And it's like, good for you, pal. Great for you. Like what? You want a trophy? Do you want a cookie? You want a trophy for firing Candace Owens? It's like, seriously? Like, are we seriously doing this? And I actually have to go back to this whole post right here. I have to go through my likes right here. But anyways, going on to say, though, it's absolutely wild to me how you can straight up continue to dog on somebody like Candace Owens after, whenever she got fired from the Daily Wire. What did the Daily Wire do? They continued to just trash her. They continued to just try and bring her down over and over again, to the point where they started making parody episodes of Candace Owens on the official Daily Wire. And you're getting mad that she's calling you filth? Yeah, I'm sorry, but I would call you filth too if you did that to me. Anyways, I just had to get that out of the way. I saw that earlier, and, you know, it's one of those things where it needed to be addressed. You know, I've been following this girl on Facebook now, or not Facebook. I've been following her on X now, or Twitter, whatever it's called, for years now. And I came across that of, you know, saying how James Fishback is being triggered by Ben Shapiro. Yeah, okay, bud. Okay, nobody's being triggered by Ben Shapiro. As long as the Jew that Ben Shapiro, as long as he is signing your paychecks, I don't want to hear it. Anyways. Yeah, going on, you know, moving on though. I think that's basically that's all we're going to do for tonight. Did you have anything else you'd like to talk about, Rad?
No, other than, do you think that Ben Shapiro is actually 5'9", or do you think he hired that guy just to prove a point?
I don't know. I don't know. You know what? No, he definitely hired that guy just to prove a point. He definitely did.
I think actually he might be secretly 5'4". Like, I think I cannot
5'3"
comprehend
at
Ben
best.
Shapiro being taller than me.
5'3" at best. Just get better, you know. Just get taller. It's all. Just you know, be taller. It's okay. Like I'm 6'2". You know how? I just got taller. Like just be better.
That's so funny.
Anyways,
I'm like 5'7" max.
all right, that's all. We're gonna go ahead and end it now. I may or may not be live later on again tonight. I'm not too sure. Don't mark my words on it. But ultimately, though, you know, it depends on how it goes. We're going to get in contact with Baldwin, see if he wants to join the show tonight. If he does, we'll have him on tonight. But if he doesn't, then, oh well. You know, I got work I got to be doing tomorrow anyways. But anyways, if he wants to come on, we'll be hosting another live stream. I'm not even tired right now. I'm just kind of like, there's things I can talk about, but I don't know. My voice is kind of getting a little sore, I guess. And like I said, I'm like all stuffed up right now, and I've been talking all day long.
Tea with 2 honeys.
Yeah, for real. Yeah, no, I'm like my allergies are just driving me crazy right now. But anyways, that's all that we're going to do on the show tonight. What's up?
Before we end this, I wanted to say my piece because I'm the one writing it. Tomorrow, my projection is for 12 p.m. tomorrow EST that our next Substack article will hopefully be published by 12, and it's actually on free speech. So there's your insider thing from the scribe. But yeah, so tomorrow, 12 p.m. hopefully. Put a hopefully in parentheses by that. You'll have the second ever Florida Frontier Uncensored Substack article written by yours truly. And then remember that right now the articles are free, but for $8 a month, exclusively you can be in a group chat with the Florida Frontier man, Charles Metcalf, and there too. But and then also remember there's other tier subscriptions. I don't remember all the things, but he knows, so he'll tell you. But that's what I wanted to say. And good night, everyone. It was nice to be here.
Yes, for $8 a month, you can subscribe to us on Florida, or you can subscribe to us on Substack. You can go look up Florida Frontier Uncensored, and get the uncensored truth from an unbiased perspective of what is happening in the political landscape today in the country. For $8 a month, you can subscribe to us on Substack at Florida Frontier Uncensored. You can unlock exclusive articles, exclusive videos, and documentaries created by yours truly, and get in a group chat with me. If you want to support the show even more, you can become a founding member for $100 annually, and you'll be able to come on the show. Very similar to AJ, except you can have your video on. Anyways, that's going to be it for the stream. Meanwhile, on another note, if you support us and you're a brokey and you cannot afford $8 a month, at the very least you can do is drop a subscription on YouTube. You can go ahead and subscribe and like to boost the algorithm. Subscribe to be notified when we go live. Anyways, that's all. I will see y'all later on tonight or tomorrow.